I finally got a chance to sit down and record some videos this month because unfortunately me and my whole family have been incredibly sick, and we're still sick, but we're getting out of it now. Okay, we're at the last part of the sicknesses, and I'm finally feeling a bit better about myself. I can actually, and I have the time. I was able to squeeze out some time to record these videos because, as you know, when the whole family's sick, you have kids and they're sick, you can't put them in daycare. So it was really even difficult to carve out time to shoot these videos. So I'm glad I was finally able to sit down and do this, okay? And it is very important because today the video I want to talk about is when every guy you like is not sure about you. I have personally experienced this. I have worked with women who have experienced this, and it is very crushing if you continue to notice this pattern where every guy you like, every guy you're attracted to, you invest in, ends up not being sure about you, pulling away, or just not being able to give you the commitment that you want, not choosing you. So I want to talk about what is happening here and what you can do about it. By the way, if you want a deeper dive into how to have the relationship that you want and attract higher quality men, high quality love into your life, then you may want to subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my email list. There's a free quiz you can take on the feminine energy, which is all about expanding your capacity for love, joy, abundance, and really attract in those higher quality relationships. You will want to check out that in the link in my description. So if you notice this pattern where every guy seems to be not sure about you, from my personal experience, what you may have is a fear of commitment or a fear of intimacy. Now, before you jump on me and you say, no, Katie, that's not it. I definitely don't have a fear of commitment. I want a relationship. I've been trying so hard to get into a relationship. That can't be it. I want to counter with your brain can be very, very sneaky about this. And I'm going to show you how it's sneaky about getting around this intimacy fear in this video, okay? So just stay with me for a minute. Just be open to the possibility that you may have some intimacy fears that's keeping men at a distance for you. And if none of this stuff resonates with you, then at least you can cross that out, right? So let's get into what these signs could be, all right? So sign number one is if you have experienced a bad breakup in the past. When I say bad, I mean if you were in a relationship where you thought the guy was your person, and then it ended up he wasn't your person. You were wrong about that. You may have developed some fear of intimacy because maybe your thought process is, if I was wrong before, I could be wrong again, and I don't want to be wrong again. Okay, the risk of being wrong again is not something I'm willing to take. Okay, I don't really want to experience a bad breakup again. I don't want to go through that again. Some version of that was kind of traumatic. That was sort of bad. I don't want to do that again, or it's not worth it for me. So if you do feel like a sense of resistance to making a mistake again, then you could have some intimacy fears. You may be extremely cautious about picking the wrong person and getting into a relationship where you could get hurt again. Sign number two is when you find yourself waffling between wanting a relationship and then not wanting a relationship. This is mostly due to the fact that there's a lot of negative emotions and negative associations around having a relationship and all the intimacy and possible, all the negative stuff of having a relationship that doesn't work out. This happens because as women, we're conditioned to want relationships. A lot of us want relationships, but at the same time, we don't want the breakup, right? We want to get into a relationship and have companion and intimacy and love, but we don't want the breakup. So how the brain kind of gets around this problem is it has to satisfy two conditions, which is, you wanting a relationship, and secondly, you don't want a breakup. So how do you meet those two conditions? By moving towards a man who is emotionally unavailable, whether he's physically unavailable, emotionally not available, emotionally not ready, because you can then get into a relationship of some sort, right? Knowing that he's probably not going to ask you for a commitment. He's not going to ask you for intimacy. He's not going to ask you to uproot your life and change your situation by getting into a relationship. Because if you think about it, a committed relationship does require a fair amount of emotional and possibly circumstantial change, right? You may have to change your routine, your lifestyle. You may have to move in with the person. I'm not saying you have to, but maybe your mind goes to maybe that could happen, right? So there is a certain level of change that could happen if you were to commit in a relationship that may bring up negative emotions within you, fear within you. So if we move towards a man who's not available, chances are really good he's not going to put any pressure on us to make those changes. Therefore, we don't have to feel that a resistance, right? That we don't have to feel negative. So this is kind of the brain's sneaky way of getting around it. You may find that an emotionally unavailable man, where in the beginning he's not quite ready for a relationship, he's told you somehow, he feels safer. It feels safer to move towards him for some reason. It feels safer to open up to him, okay, to develop some kind of a bond with him. Okay, yeah, it does feel safer because there's no risk of it turning into something more serious, where then it would require much more of you than you may be willing to give. Sign number 3 is when you notice if a man is interested in you and is coming towards you, you end up fault finding something about him. You end up rejecting him, or finding something that's wrong with him, nitpicking something that's not right with him, as a way to mentally and emotionally push him away. And if a man was pulling away from you, moving away from you, you end up idolizing and fantasizing about him and putting him on a pedestal. In a lot of cases, end up chasing him, right? Texting him, calling him, like wanting to be with him. And the reason we do that is because it feels safer with the guy who's moving away, because he's never going to require a real true commitment into a relationship and having it change and uproot your life. And the guy who is moving towards you, it feels very uncomfortable. Okay, it can feel uncomfortable because then if you also move towards him, then it becomes more real, more possible that you may have to commit. You may have to change your circumstances and, put more effort in, like emotional effort in, be more vulnerable with him. And then therefore, it feels more real then that if it doesn't work out, the pain would be more real, right? More real in your mind. That's the game what we kind of play with ourselves. It's always like, what do we feel safest? And you always find the people who have a fear of intimacy always find a man who's moving away feels safer to them to move forward, and a man who's coming towards them doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel safe to move towards him. It actually feels better to move away from him. This is the last sign number 4, when you're extremely avoidant with men you don't like, and then as soon as you like a man, you become very anxious. I always think anxious and avoidant is two sides of the same coin. Therefore, if you're super anxious, you're probably super avoidant as well. The problem is, though, when you are being super avoidant, you're not aware there's a problem, okay? You're like, when you're anxious and you're feeling anxious, it's a problem. You can feel the anxiety. You can't get away from the problem because you're feeling it. But when you're avoidant, you don't even notice you have a problem, okay? You're just going about your day, you're living your life, you're feeling good, there is no issues, you're not feeling any differently. So you don't even notice that you have a problem. All right. And this is where I found this was the hardest problem to solve, because the problem that you need to solve is actually your avoidance to intimacy, avoidance to men who are available for you, and not the anxiety, right? Because when you're already feeling anxious, that man who is pulling away from you and triggering your anxiety, he's probably not going to give you the intimacy that you want. Okay, so even if you move towards him and you open up to him and you put all this effort in, he's probably not going to give you the intimacy that you're seeking, because he was pulling away, right? He was probably not available from the beginning. He's not going to suddenly change. But the man who could give you intimacy and the intimacy that you seek, he's the guy that you're probably not even paying attention to, right? He's the one that you're avoiding, that you've just totally dismissed from the beginning. Therefore, he's not even in your awareness. Like you don't even notice him. And it's so difficult to solve a problem when you're not even aware that it's like a problem, right? So this is why it took me over a year to really figure out, oh, actually, I'm just avoidant. I'm avoiding all the guys that I could truly have a real serious relationship with. I avoid them by telling myself they're boring, they're not interesting enough, I'm not that attracted to them, okay? And like, I'd rather do something else and talk to them. And all the stories that your brain will come up with to find a way to move away from those people. Your brain will come up with a lot of creative reasons to dismiss that guy. Okay, lots of reasons. It's kind of like my dog ate my homework excuse. This is why it's the hardest problem to solve. You could also confuse yourself. Am I just trying to avoid intimacy, or am I just truly not attracted to him? And you could get confused on which is which. And confusion is another way that we keep intimacy away, because if we're confused, then we can't move forward, right? We can't move towards intimacy, which is kind of ironic. This isn't something that is one video and solved, or you take a course and it's solved. It's a series of little agreements that you have to make with yourself to move towards intimacy. Again, if you are highly avoidant, your inclination is to avoid all of those little agreements that you need to make with yourself. Okay, that's why it took me so long, because life, it's so easy to avoid all of our problems. Okay, it's very easy to avoid it. And if you don't have a really good motivator, then you're probably not going to do it. Okay, that's something I've just discovered for myself. Like, I had to really get motivated to want to solve this as someone who is very avoidant, because it requires you to move towards pain, discomfort, all the things we naturally want to avoid. That's why we're avoidant in the first place. So to deliberately move towards those things will be very, very uncomfortable and requires a huge boost in motivation. Like, we have to really believe there's going to be a payoff at the end, or else it's very, very challenging for you to do it. Okay. And I just say all of this, just to kind of warn you of what you are up against. You're up against the brain that created the problem in the first place. So you have to really understand yourself well, what motivates you and what demotivates you, if this is something you want solved. That is my video for this week. If you enjoy this video, please like me, subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to learn more about your own relationship patterns, your dating patterns, and how to overcome them, you definitely want to keep subscribed to my channel. And if you want to learn more about the feminine energy and how to attract higher quality love and abundance and joy into your life and relationships, then you'll want to check out that quiz in my description about the feminine energy. Okay, that's all from me this week. I'll talk to you real soon.